Barossa de Padilla, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, Council is pleased to have Rabbi Braver, Associate Pastor Rabbi at Tifereth, Israel, to pray with us. Rabbi, welcome to Council.
Thank you. Good to be here virtually with you. We'll pray together. Preserved in the Hebrew Bible are the architectural descriptions of the tabernacle, or the Mishkan, the sacred tent sanctuary that was built by the Israelites as their holy place for worship in the desert. Each detail, each plank, each pole, each ring, each cloth, each clasp, each bar, each curtain is lovingly preserved in this holy text, treasured by Christians, Muslims, and Jews. Jewish communities around the world, like my own, will chant these details aloud this year, as we do every year, when our lectionary cycle turns to the second half of the book of Exodus, as it does this week. We've preserved these details over the last 3,000 years because we understand what it takes to build something sacred. And we know that it goes beyond having good intentions, beyond even having an inspiring vision. It takes a knowledge of how each clasp fits with each cloth and how each plank is bound to its fellow. It takes an understanding of the seemingly insignificant details to build something that can be a home for the divine spirit that guides us all towards lives of justice and compassion. As you all engage in the sacred work of this city's planks and poles, the details that hold our community together, may you be guided by the source of life. May you be guided by the one who blessed our ancestors and who blesses us. May you continue to see how each small piece of your work contributes to the overall whole. May you see how each person you represent is a clasp holding together this sanctuary in which we all live. And may each of you bring your contributions, no matter how small, and take them to help bring the spirit of righteousness and loving kindness so that it may dwell among us all. Let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barossa de Padilla, Brown, Faber, Remy, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barossa de Padilla, Brown, Faber, Remy, President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This week's communication received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the City Bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We'll do resolutions or announcements, starting with Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Just one announcement. Wanted to make sure that I reiterated, a couple of weeks ago, there was an emergency declared around our blood supply. And so my team and I, myself, JP Durval and Kevin Jones, we had a chance to go give blood last week. So I just want to encourage folks to reach out to your local blood donation center and consider giving blood, whether that's at your job, if there's a blood drive coming up, or host one. When we talk about what's happening right now with our pandemic, we talk about the supply chain. The great and unique thing about blood is that we are the supply chain. So make sure you go out and give blood. It will save a life. That's the only announcement I have.
Councilman Barossa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. I do have two announcements and one resolution. So the first is I hope that folks are staying warm through this cold snap, and while the weather looks a little bit more promising tomorrow, we do know that there is snow and ice on the horizon later on this week. So the first thing I would like to do is encourage everyone to get out soon to buy your groceries or whatever you need to hunker down and feel safe and comfortable earlier in the week so you don't have to do it later on. And I do want to take a moment to introduce the Assistant Director of Public Service, Randy Bourne. who is joining us via WebEx to provide us on an update and how we are preparing our roadways for the storm later this week. So, Assistant Director Bourne, Trager, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Council Member. As we look at the weather and how it's changing over the next few days, that will certainly affect our strategy going into this. Whether it rains or that moves to ice and then snow, we'll be ready for it. We have approximately 24,000 tons of salt and over 150,000 gallons of liquid and anti-de-icing agents on hand citywide. I would like to point out some tips for motorists. Please don't crowd the plow. If you cannot see our snow warriors' eyes in the mirror, they can't see you. But also keep your windows clear. Don't start driving to the windows are defrosted and clean, even if you're only going a short distance. Slow down, get home safe, especially slow down on the snow and ice. And you have to be cautious until you can determine how much traction you can expect from your tires. And watch the stops. When stopping, avoid sudden movements of the steering wheel, avoid locking of brakes on glazed ice, as it will cause loss of steering and control. No matter if you're in an SUV or a small car or on a bicycle, winter weather can be dangerous. And as the snow falls, please be sure to go to warriorwatch.columbus.gov to see what streets have been serviced in the past 72 hours, and also follow us on our social media accounts. We will be providing updates throughout the day and evening. Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you. And as the kids would say, public service social media is lit. So I would highly encourage that if you don't follow them, that you should. My daughter's somewhere cringing right now. I also want to just give a shout out to our snow warriors who are out there. They are our neighbors. They are our friends who are working around the clock to ensure that our streets and our roadways are safe. And I want to encourage everyone to please be good neighbors during this time. Check in on our older residents and neighbors, folks with disabilities. Have patience on the road and grace with your fellow neighbors. Folks who may need shelter from the cold, we do have warming centers that I know Councilmember Brown will address in just a moment. So please stay warm and safe. I'm also happy to announce that in February, my office will be hosting community hours. We will give both an in-person option and a virtual option. So our first in-person option is Wednesday, February 9th. I'll do a reminder the week before at Driving Park Library, Meeting Room 3 from 5:30 to 6:30. These community hours are an opportunity for us to engage on the things that you're concerned about that are happening in your neighborhoods across the city. As I said, there'll be the second and the fourth Wednesday of every month. Virtual option will be later in the month. The in-person option will be at the beginning. Please stay tuned for if anything needs to change. This is the plan going forward. To RSVP, please email our office, Marie Lemus at aslemus@columbus.gov, or you can simply show up. We will not turn you away. We just want to know who to plan for. And lastly, while we are at the end of the month, the work never ends. And so tonight, I am honored to present a resolution for Resolution 0019X 2022 to honor and recognize January 2022 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Human trafficking takes advantage of some of our most vulnerable communities, disproportionately affecting ethnic minorities, women, girls, LGBTQ+ individuals, and vulnerable migrants. But of course, any community can be impacted, any individual can be impacted. By bringing awareness to this topic, we're working to not only educate at-risk populations, but advocate for and empower our survivors, because every individual deserves the right to be healthy, safe, and free. Our collective advocacy not only protects and promotes the rights of our at-risk populations, but advocacy leads to policy, and policy creates change, as we all know. I'd like to introduce the executive director of She Has a Name, an advocacy organization that focuses on community education and care for those impacted. Courtney Schmackers is here with us in council this evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. As Councilwoman shared, I'm Courtney. I'm Executive Director at She Has a Name. We are a strong community that's fighting human trafficking through education, through advocacy, and by caring for those that are locally impacted right here in Columbus. So I thank you so much for your work today in recognizing Human Trafficking Awareness Month. We're honored to be considered as part of that. I wanted to give a few facts on what human trafficking looks like in Columbus, because there can be some myths or misconceptions about it. I think at this point we've all heard about human trafficking, we know that it exists, but I want to highlight specifically 2 areas that we might not think of, and that being kids, at-risk youth, as well as solicitors, or those who are arrested for purchasing sex. So just briefly, the average age of entry into human trafficking is 19 years old across the US, but here in Ohio it's closer to 15 years old. And that's average, which means half of those men, women, children, and people are younger than that as well. Because of knowing this and the vulnerabilities that this population has, I really encourage all of those parents who have kids, the same way that you talk to your kids about safety in public, you talk to them about safety online, because we know that this is where exploitation is happening on social media, anywhere that there's direct messaging services. And we're responding to that at She Is a Name. We have an online resource that's free on demand, that's a course designed for 11 to 18-year-olds to tell them about safety online, healthy relationships, and then an introduction, kid-friendly to human trafficking, so that they can equip themselves and be able to report suspicious cases. A lot of them know that it's happening to their fellow students, to their neighbors and friends. So that's a free resource that we have available. The second group then would be solicitors. So last year, this body, Counsel, raised the penalties for solicitors, and we were thrilled to see that happen, but are responding with a solicitor education program. And what we found by facilitating that program and by looking at what the city of Columbus's John School has gathered for the last decade plus is that a lot of those who are soliciting have the same histories of trauma, mental health illness, and other broken communities or vulnerabilities as we see in actually survivors of human trafficking. So just making aware that it's, that idea that broken people hurt broken people. And so we're thankful that solicitor education programs were one of the increased penalties, so that those who are purchasing sex aren't just getting a slap on the wrist and continuing with that behavior, but that we're addressing those root causes through our private John School, the public John School here in the city of Columbus, and then others across the state as well. So what can this body or the general public do about human trafficking? I have 3 simple steps from She Is a Name that I hope are approachable, because I know this is like a big, complex issue that can seem insurmountable. But there are 3 simple ways. One is by learning. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of myths or misconceptions about what this issue looks like or how you can get involved. So we have a virtual training 4 times a year, or an online course that's on demand. But our next training is coming up February 24th and 25th. So that's free, and you can sign up at our website for more details about that. I'd love to see you all equipped to be able to respond in your unique capacities as you serve the city. The second way is by investing financially, in knowing that you might not have the time to give, but in sharing your resources, that also creates sustainability for programs that create lasting impact. They provide scholarships for survivors, invest in their dreams, seek prevention efforts for kids. And you can give at she'saname.org/give as well. Or I know you know of a lot of great entities in the city that would be happy to support those funds as well. And lastly, sharing about the cause. As we know, social media is a great way to share information. So following She Is a Name, or on Facebook or Instagram, or signing up at any page on our website to receive email updates about our events helps you to just learn more and get engaged as it's helpful to you. So I want to thank Councilmember Barroso de Padilla for inviting me here today to speak to you. I thank you for your time and for your efforts in passing this resolution. Thank you.
Any comments from my colleagues? So Courtney, I want to thank you for all the work that you've done and for the work that you'll continue to do. You have a commitment from this council to ensure that survivors are restored into society and can thrive in our community. I want to acknowledge the work of this council, especially Council Members Brown and Favor, for the work you've done to support this cause. And it is our hope that through our continued education and advocacy that we can eradicate this issue. So thank you. Council President Harden, that is all for me. Gracias.
Thank you, Councilmember. President Pro Tem.
Thank you so much, Council President. I do have one resolution.
President Pro Tem, I apologize.
Oh.
We didn't pass the resolution yet.
I'm so sorry. I need to pass the resolution.
Is there a second? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. Grace to the new girl.
I would like to invite Mr. Bill Dawson to the podium as I read my resolution I have tonight. It's 18X-2022 to honor and celebrate Bill Dawson and to thank him for his legacy of leadership and his 30 years of committed service to the Franklin Park Conservatory and the residents of Columbus and Central Ohio. Bill Dawson has been a fixture within the conservatory since January of 1992. He has worked in a number of roles, including as the landscape survivor for Ameriflora 92. That is a throwback. The horticulture director, and most recently as the manager of the Growing to Green program for the conservatory and botanical gardens, which includes a 28-acre botanical garden and 60 acres of public parkland. Under Bill's leadership, the Growing to Green program evolved into the largest organized effort to promote and provide free community resources for community gardening and city beautification. The program has assisted in the startup or renovation of more than 300 community gardens throughout Central Ohio and assists individuals and groups interested in starting a community garden or a neighborhood beautification project or a school learning garden. Bill also played a significant role in the creation and implementation of the annual Growing to Green Awards, which honors the dedication and hard work taking place within many of the communities around Central Ohio. Bill has a special appreciation for people, and as a leader, he has established a reputation for promoting the ongoing participation in city beautification and community gardening. So first, I'm going to hand the podium over to you in a second. First, I'd like to move for adoption.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
And Bill, thank you for your service and joining us here. Could you please step up to the microphone, and is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, Councilmember Brown, thank you for sponsoring this resolution, and Council President Harden, council members, thank you so much for the longstanding support you've given the Franklin Park Conservatory and to its programming such as Growing to Green, which is out there helping community gardens, urban farms, beautification projects, school gardens, church gardens. Anybody that would listen to me that would want to plant some vegetables and share with their neighbors and bring people together, we would work closely with them to do that. But the longstanding support, not only City Council, but all city departments, from forestry for wood chips to code enforcement. I've got my sister back here who works for code enforcement, and she'll let me know when they're starting to look a little bad, and I'll make sure that those gardens are looking good. But health department, all departments have worked alongside community gardens because they've seen the benefit that we're seeing in neighborhoods. And to grow from 12 gardens in 2000 to over 300 is pretty amazing. It's one of the largest programs in the United States per capita out there. So you all have done a marvelous job in helping this community garden movement. It's not a trend, it's a movement. And you've all helped to sustain that. But also in the Urban Garden Grant, you've and a shout out to recently retired Councilwoman Priscilla Tyson, who really initiated some small grants out to the gardens, which grew. And Council has supported that. So now with the Urban Garden Grants that the city, the county, and Scott's Miracle-Gro all provides through the Columbus Foundation is helping these gardens grow. And I just want to see that continue. And, I'll still be out in the community helping where I can, and I'll still be advocating for these gardens. So thank you very much for the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Congratulations, Bill.
That's all I have, Council President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Councilmember Favor.
Thank you, Council President Harden. First, I'd like to Let's start with a resolution, Resolution 0021X-2022, to declare February 2022 as American Heart Month and recognize cardiovascular disease as the world's leading cause of preventable death. Cardiovascular disease affects men, women, and children of every age and race in the United States, but it's the #1 killer of women in the U.S., killing more women than all forms of cancer combined. In fact, heart disease is the #1 killer of new moms. From 2019 to 2020, deaths from heart disease increased by 4.8%, making it the largest increase in heart disease deaths since 2012. Women, especially Black and Hispanic women, are disproportionately impacted by heart disease and stroke, and research shows heart attacks are on the rise in younger women. Here with us today is American Heart Association's Executive Director, Nancy Tobe. I am proud to present this resolution to the American Heart Association for their efforts in raising awareness on heart disease. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor and President Hardin and all members of the council for having the American Heart Association here today. We're very grateful for the support that you give our community to bring heart health awareness and education resources to all the members of our community. Cardiovascular disease continues to be the #1 killer of women, claiming more women's lives than all forms of cancer combined. Women today are juggling more responsibilities than ever. They are stressed, navigating work, family, and just simply trying to keep all the balls in the air. They wake up with an ever-growing mental to-do list, and their own health is rarely at the top of it. And the pandemic has amplified this, significantly impacting a woman's risk for heart disease and stroke. In fact, 1 in 5 people have reported lower physical wellness, and 1 in 3 have reported lower emotional wellness. And sadly, heart disease and stroke deaths have risen significantly since the onset of the pandemic. This February, during American Heart Month, and this Wear Red Day, Friday, February 4th, the American Heart Association rallies our community and our nation to unite in a common goal, raising awareness about the #1 killer of women. Simply by wearing your red or your red dress pin, which I know many of you have on today, to bring awareness of, again, cardiovascular disease and the impacts it has on women. Go Red for Women, it was created under the American Heart Association as an initiative to really increase women's heart health awareness and serve as a catalyst for change to improve the lives of women. Since 2004, Go Red for Women has had a profound impact on women's health, continues to be a champion and continuing to be champions for women. Together, we are not only raising awareness for women, we are empowering women to make a change for their health for the better, engaging more women in science and research and STEM programs, and addressing inequities in access and quality of care. And for 18 years, Go Red for Women has provided a platform right here in Columbus community to come together and raise awareness and funds to support the association's efforts, because losing one woman is just simply too many. With your proclamation today declaring February American Heart Month in the city of Columbus, we can continue to raise awareness and save the lives of women we love most. And I am so grateful for your support of this. Thank you for having us here today.
Thank you so much for all of the work that you do in our community to raise awareness around cardiovascular disease. Are there any comments by my colleagues? Well, with that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a few brief announcements. This morning, this council had the opportunity to lay out its priorities for this budget cycle. Housing, workforce development, and youth engagement remain a top priority, given the reality that there is far too many residents without access to employment opportunities and stable housing. Last December, I announced the pilot program, the Pathway to Purpose Casey Goodson Jr. CDL program. And I am excited that this program will be expanded through this budget, hopefully once it passes this year, to service more residents and providing them with tools to obtain a good living wage job. This past weekend, Mr. Goodson's family and friends gathered to honor and celebrate him on his birthday. And I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge Mr. Goodson, his family, and continue to offer my support as his family navigates their way through seeking justice on behalf of their son, their brother, their friend, their loved one. Next, I'd like to wish everyone a Black History Month. Black History Month is an entire month devoted to putting a spotlight on African Americans who have made contributions to our country. It is a celebration of those who have impacted not only just this country, but the world with their activism and achievements. This year's Black History Month theme is Black Health and Wellness. And as Council's new Health and Human Services Chair, I want to encourage all of our Black residents to prioritize our health and wellness, not just this month, but every month. And as the great poet Audre Lorde stated, caring for oneself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. And that is an act of political welfare. Black History Month is American history. And so I look forward to sharing more Black History Month facts throughout the month of February. Next, I'd like to inform everyone about 2 free resources available at the Franklin County Municipal Courthouse. The Self-Help Resource Center is a free walk-in service to help residents represent themselves in court without a lawyer. The center is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, please visit www.fcmcselfhelpcenter.org. FCMC has launched the March for Recovery Center. Please stop by the center if you need assistance securing shelter or alcohol and drug addiction treatment. It is open and free to everyone. Last Thursday, January 27th, the Department of Development hosted a virtual town hall to discuss the draft policy revisions to the Community Reinvestment Area Residential Tax Abatement Policy, which serves to incentivize the creation of housing units for families earning Columbus's median income of $47,000 a year. If you were unable to attend the public meeting, you can watch it at www.columbus.gov/development, and we would like to still open the opportunity to provide feedback to Aaron Prosser at ejprosser@columbus.gov or 614-645-6982. I'd also like to ask Assistant Health Commissioner Mike Fielding to provide a COVID-19 update. Mr. Fielding?
Thank you, Councilmember Faber. I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you so much. Well, when you look at the CDC community transmission here in Columbus and Franklin County, transmission is still high. But when you look at the Franklin County case rate, a 7-day aggregate, it has come down 51% since last week. For example, per 100,000, we have 595 cases. So that is a 7-day case rate for Franklin County. The positivity rate for Franklin County has also dropped. Last week it was 24.4%. This week it is 17.3%. And then when you look at the city of Columbus Columbus jurisdiction case rate, 7-day case rate for 100,000, it also dropped by 45%. And our median age for cases is 32 years old. That's remained the same over the last few weeks. And our hospital admissions are going down, and our death rate in the county is going down. So not really a reason to fully celebrate at this particular time, but I think we just need to be aggressive and continue to follow public health measures as we move forward. As I mentioned in the beginning, our transmission rate is still high, but the individual numbers on cases, hospital admissions, and positivity rate are starting to lower. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Fielding. Do my colleagues have any questions for Commissioner Fielding? And as you acknowledge, we definitely don't want to let up our efforts. So if you missed Columbus Public Health's 2-day drive-through vaccine clinic at the Celeste Center earlier this month, that's okay. Columbus Public Health is distributing COVID-19 vaccines at 9 weekly clinics. For more information, please visit columbus.gov/C19vax. And last but certainly not least, as my colleague, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla informed us, we are expecting some weather this week. And so for our unhoused neighbors, the best days to find warmth on these cold days is to use the homeless shelter hotline. And you can use the number 614-274-7000, which is the number for the entire shelter system. As always, please feel free to reach out to my office if you have any additional questions or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have one resolution this evening, Resolution 024X 2022, to honor, recognize, and celebrate the Honorable Judge Grady L. Pettigrew Jr. on his retirement from the City of Columbus Civil Service Commission. Judge Pettigrew is retiring as the president of the Civil Service Commission with 22 years of service, where he has overseen and guided its efforts to ensure properly focused, transparent, and equitable city employment opportunities, resulting in an agency that serves as a leader and go-to organization for other jurisdictions throughout the country regarding its classification and testing programs. Mr. Pettigrew Jr., an Ohio State University National Moot Court champion, has served as a judge of the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of Ohio, has been a member of the bankruptcy faculty of the Federal Judicial Center in Washington, D.C., served as an adjunct professor at the law schools at Ohio State University and Capital University, has authored 2 books on bankruptcy law, and was named one of the best lawyers in America many times during his career. Judge Pettigrew's passion for law and education blends into a lifetime of community service, as demonstrated by his appointment to the City of Columbus's Police Chief Review Commission in 1989 by Mayor Dana Buck Reinhardt, and subsequent appointment to the Civil Service Commission by Mayor Michael B. Coleman, and continued by Mayor Andrew J. Ginther up to his retirement. A passionate proponent of community service, Judge Pettigrew has volunteered his time to help the community in numerous ways. A graduate of the Ohio State University and the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law, Judge Pettigrew served as trustee for Columbus State Community College and as the president of the trustees of the Columbus Urban League. He has also served on the Board of Governors for the Columbus Bar Association, as a trustee of the Martin Luther King Performing Arts Complex, and chaired a project for health and wellness in Columbus urban community for many years. We are proud to recognize the retirement of the Honorable Grady L. Pettigrew from the Columbus Municipal Civil Service Commission. Decorated Army veteran, Judge Pettigrew served his community as a federal judge, educator, mentor, advisor, advocate, and trusted friend. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of Columbus to honor, recognize, and celebrate the Honorable Judge Grady L. Pettigrew Jr. on his retirement from the City of Columbus Civil Service Commission. Unfortunately, Judge Pettigrew is unable to join us this evening, so I'd like to turn the floor over to Director DeLong to share a few words. Welcome back, Director DeLong. It's good to have you on virtually. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Ramey. I would just like to thank Grady again for his 22 years of service to the city and for overseeing the usual workings of the commission. I'd like to say, Grady, please accept our thanks and gratitude for the countless hours you've invested over the years in job class review, background reviews, appeal hearings, and generally for helping make the organization that the leader that it is today. We have all benefited from the personal and professional influence Grady has on our lives and our work, and we want to wish him the best in his next chapter. Thank you, Councilmember Ramey.
Thank you very much, Director. We appreciate those kind words and certainly appreciate his dedicated service to the Columbus community. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for adoption.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you, Council President Harden. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, council members. Are there any comments from our elected officials I don't know if the city attorney's office, the auditor, or the judges are on the line. Seeing none, are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we now have a motion to waive reading of titles of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy. President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation?
Economic Development Committee, Ordinance 169-2022. Technology Committee, Ordinance 201-2022. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Resolution 10X-2022, and Ordinance 159-2022. Finance Committee, Ordinances 154 and 162-2022. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 24, 29, 31, 49, 50, 71, 72, 81, 83, 86, 87, 88, 91, 93, 96, 100, 107, 110, 133, 135, 149, 176, 177, 178, 183-2022. The Zoning Committee, Ordinances 131, 132, 184, 188, 189, 190, 284, 288-2022. Workforce Development Committee, Ordinance 262-2022. Public Safety Committee, Ordinances 193 and 199-2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I don't see any speakers on the first reading portion of the agenda. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent. Would the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolutions of Expression 16X and 23X-2022. Economic Development Committee, Resolution 11X, 12X, 13X, 14X-2022, and Ordinances 76, 77, 203-2022. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Resolution 3X-22, Ordinances 5, 6, 64, 158, and 277-2022. Finance Committee, Ordinances 89, 95, 186, 192, 278-2022. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinance 3252 and 3295-2021. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 3310, 3318, 3323, 3368-2021, and Ordinances 30, 32, and 46-2022. Building and Zoning Policy Committee, Ordinance 152-2022. Housing Committee, Ordinances 228, 231, 233, 235, 239, 240, 243, 244, and 267-2022. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, Ordinance 101-2022. Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinances 3056-2021, and Ordinances 148 and 295-2022. Public Safety Committee, Ordinance 48-2022. Administration Committee, Ordinances 105, 138, 170, 171-2022. Appointments from the Mayor's Office, numbered A0002, 8, 9, 10, and 16-2022.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one consent agenda speaker. Mr. Nate Wilkins is speaking on Ordinance 0228-2022. Mr. Wilkins, welcome to council. What committee is that? Does anybody know? Housing? Okay.
Mr. Lieutenant George Wilkins of the North Linden area. I will be questioning more money. I guess this thing is for the land relation, for the land bank for vacant property. I'm all for this, but I have several questions. I know we are back at the table once again for land management, for land bank properties to maintain their properties. I'm requesting for $375,000. And the reason why of this is it seems like we're just targeting land bank stuff, but why not the other pieces of property along Cleveland Avenue, along through the state of Ohio here? Quite some time ago, I visited my LaGrogan area, and I had to walk on East Fifth Avenue. Mind you, a couple years ago, there was a vacant house that sit here, owned by the city of Columbus. It was a historical home. This lot this whole lot here, we don't know who it's owned by, but there's been several times I had to walk in the street, tall grass and high weeds. The other thing is also when we talk about land parcels, land bank parcels again, we are talking about tall grass, high weeds and things. I had watched my community have vacant property, vacant lots not being taken care of. But to talk about this, I want to request $375,000. It's not just for land, empty lots owned by the city or vacant property that's owned by the city. It's all over the place of state of Ohio. We're talking about torn up buildings, commercial vitalizing buildings along Cleveland Avenue, all through the state of Ohio. Won't we utilize this money for more resources with commercial property and boarded up properties has set for years and time after time again? I am talking about $375,000. We can do a lot more with land bank properties around the state of Ohio. I've watched a property on Hudson Avenue of the old Hudson Market has sit vacant for years and years and years. I want y'all to utilize more money to set aside for this. For this, the land bank properties, not just for commercial properties, but other resources in the area that will utilize this money all around the state of Ohio. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. This is a housing ordinance. I'm going to turn it over to Chair Favor.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, for your continued advocacy, in the housing space. I can also turn it over to Director Stevens, but just to acknowledge that this specific contract to maintain land bank properties is just one of several contracts that the department enters into to make sure that the property that is currently within the cities or the county's land bank is being maintained to the city code standards. So that means that the grass is being cut, that the property remains boarded and inaccessible to people who are looking to do unlawful things inside the property. Director Stevens, do you have anything additional you'd like to add at this time?
Thank you, President Hardin, Chair Favor, member of council. We'll also continue to work with code enforcement to address those properties that are privately owned, that have high grass and weeds, to get those maintained and per code.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are there any other questions or comments on the consent portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve these items designated as consent? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
The consent agenda is passed. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day and tabled legislation. The first committee to come before council is the Public Service Committee, chaired by Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President Harden. I have 4 ordinances today in Public Service and Transportation Committee. Ordinance 1820-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget to authorize the transfer of funds and appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Strasser Paving Company for the roadway improvements Little Turtle Way project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $5,835,830.77 from the Streets and Highway Bonds funds for the project. This ordinance authorizes the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Strasser Paving Company for the Little Turtle Way project. This contract includes the reconstruction and realignment of Little Turtle Way from the entrance ramp to State Route 161 westbound to Firewater Lane. The reconstruction will include the installation of a roundabout at the intersection of Little Turtle Way and Long Rifle Road. I want to just take a moment to highlight the merits of this project and how it aligns with our approach to safety and infrastructure improvements as it pertains to roadway projects. This project will ease congestion, decrease speeds, and support safe mobility. The reconstruction of the deteriorating roadway will ensure equitable and safe access for all users and will help our city meet Vision Zero standards. As with any improvement project, our neighbors could be for or against elements of the design, approach, or the merits of the project itself. Over the course of the past year, the Department of Service, as well as members of this council, provided engagement opportunities with the public, hosting public hearings, virtual meetings, site tours, Q&A sessions, and responding to resident concerns. This evening, we will have several speakers who will speak and provide their perspective either for or against the project. Before we move on to public commentary, I want to invite back Assistant Director Bourne Trager from Public Service to provide a brief overview of the project. So Assistant Director Bourne Trager, can you please talk to us about the project, and then also can you include any changes based on public feedback during the year-long process?
Thank you. Yes, Council President Hardin, Pro Tem Brown, and Chair Barroso de Padilla, thank you for having me here tonight. As you have read, this legislation is authorizing much-needed transportation improvements on Little Turtle Way from 161 to Firewater Lane, and to provide a safer journey for bicyclists, pedestrians, and motorists. The proposed improvements would consolidate the divided north and south lanes of Little Turtle Way to one western roadway, construct a roundabout at Long Rifle, and add a new traffic signal at State Route 161, add sidewalks and a shared use path, and include traffic control and intersection lighting. Now, the Little Turtle Way project will provide the much needed reconstruction of the deteriorating roadway and ensure equitable and safe access for all users. Pedestrian and bicyclists will benefit from the sidewalk and shared use path being added, since those facilities do not exist on the old roadway. The project will ease congestion, decrease speeds, and support safe mobility in an area of Columbus which has experienced exponential growth in population and economic development. This quadrant of the city and the Northland and surrounding communities is the fastest growing section of Columbus, putting pressure on our transportation system as we build out more public infrastructure and making this department proactive in its approach to address that population growth. I would say over the 4 public engagement opportunities and many more hours on the phone with our project manager, with community leaders, we have listened to the public input. We have changed the design based on that input, including over 10 changes, such as a tree protection plan for the Little Turtle oak tree, additional landscaping to provide entry features at the southern end of the project, addition of landscaping in the center island of the roundabout, grading changes north of the roundabout to preserve the natural mounting west of the project, grading changes and shifting the roadway along the south leg of Little Turtle Way to preserve existing trees, accommodations to change concrete mediums to grass mediums throughout the project, additional tree planting, species, and increased caliper size for 30 out of the 100 trees proposed on the project, adjustments to the tree lawn along Long Rifle east of the intersection with Little Turtle Way to preserve as many existing trees as possible, and improved construction of the shared use path between Double Eagle Drive and Firewater Lane to serve an additional EMS access to north portions of Little Turtle Way, Cambria neighborhood. The City of Columbus has also added the loop around Cambria Way to Blue Jacket Road to be evaluated for a pedestrian project to provide sidewalks and walking paths around this loop, and have also conveyed the desire to complete the connection to Blenheim Woods Metro Park to ODOT to complete the connection across the bridge over State Route 161 in a future state-funded project. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Director Bourne Trager, for that overview. Now we will open it up for our speakers this evening. Some have joined us here in council chambers, and some will be joining us via WebEx. So the first speaker that I would like to give the floor to is against this ordinance, Joe Motil, who I believe was, oh, here he is. Sorry, I didn't see you back there, Mr. Motil. So as you're making your way up to the podium, and as a seasoned speaker, you already know this, but sharing for our other speakers, all speakers have 3 minutes, and if you could state your name and the organizations that you represent. Thank you.
Thank you. President Hardin, members of City Council. Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road. I'm speaking as co-leader of Columbus Neighbors United and on behalf of Neighbors for Responsible Development. I've been involved with assisting the Little Turtle residents regarding this roadway project for the last 10 months, during which time we have publicly resisted this questionable, controversial, and unethical creation of this roadway project. It is my conclusion, and that of hundreds, if not thousands of others, that this project was never initiated for the public good, but for the benefit of Little Turtle property owner and developer Mo Dion and Firewater Limited, which owns no less than 128 acres of Little Turtle property that includes the 3 mounds that will be impacted by this ordinance. This project will allow Firewater to develop the middle round. To ensure that this project would materialize, Mr. Dion hired former Mayor Michael Coleman as his lobbyist on September 27, 2017, specifically for this ordinance. The development of the middle mound will be accomplished by a road design that was referenced as 1.3.1 in a City of Columbus RFP for Little Turtle Way roadway improvements dated February 9, 2018. That design was performed by American Structure Point and dated March 21, 2017. City records do not indicate that American Structure Point was awarded a contract to create this design. That design clearly shows a roundabout at the intersection of Long Rifle and Little Turtle Way, vacating the eastern northbound lane and adding it to the west southbound lane while freeing up the middle mound for development. The American Structure Point design is nearly identical to what the Public Service Department decided to have built. You've all seen this in today's paper, I'm sure. Court testimony from city officials revealed an unbelievable lack of memory and questionable responses regarding details of various meetings that took place between Mr. Dion, Jennifer Gallagher, James Young, Michael Coleman, Zach Klein, Ms. Favor, and President Hardin. For instance, a meeting that was held at the Little Turtle Country Club between Dion, Coleman, and then Councilman Hardin on March 20th, 2017. Mr. Hardin testified under oath that he does not recall any specifics of the meeting, doesn't recall talking about combining the north and southbound lanes, but yet the design by American Structure Point of the roadway project that was used as a reference by the city was stamped March 21st, 2017, the day after this meeting was held at the country club with the developer and Mr. Coleman. In closing, the people of Columbus are sick and tired of developers and those of political influence destroying our neighborhoods at the expense of profits over people. The project has been riddled with impropriety, concealment of information, and unethical violations from day one. It's appalling that City Council is ignoring a judge's temporary restraining order that prohibits them from proceeding with this project. The citizens of Columbus demand that Council table this ordinance until the matter is resolved in court, along with a complete investigation by the State of Ohio Attorney General's office regarding this project. Thank you.
Thank you,
Answer any
Mr. Motel.
questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Motel, for your testimony and for being here this evening. I would like to move forward to our next speaker who is in favor of the ordinance, Mark Knopfzeiger, I believe I'm saying your name correctly, who I believe is joining us via WebEx.
Yep, that's correct. Can you guys hear me? All right, perfect.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. That was something. First of all, I thank you for the opportunity to address the council. My name is Mark Knopfzeiger, and my wife and I live in the new High Point at Little Turtle community. I wanted to join you to express my support and appreciation for the investment that the council is making in the community with this Little Turtle Way project. As been described, this investment will not only serve to modernize our infrastructure, but will be to make it more accessible and efficient, but also to make it safer and more inviting for the residents and guests. I first moved to Little Turtle in 1977 with my parents. And at the time, it was the up-and-coming community in Westerville. It was modern, it was upscale, and the golf course was top-notch. We later discovered there was no fire station, but I digress. 40 years later, my wife and I were starting to look to downsize. We considered Little Turtle again, and the High Point vision, which frankly was not available anywhere else in Central Ohio. We signed our contract before there was even a hole in the ground, because it was clear that Little Turtle was up and coming once again. We lived here over 2 years now and love the project and community. However, it's clear that the current roadway is worn out, in desperate need of repair, and frankly unsafe. So regardless of where the plans came from, we feel these improvements that you're making will not only contribute to the safety and welfare of the community, but also the improved entrance will reflect a sense of pride we have in our Little Turtle home. And with 2 puppies, my wife and I are particularly looking forward to the increased walkability and community feel with the walking paths being provided. Unfortunately, change is hard, and the loud voices of a very small group of residents has perhaps created a bad impression of our Little Turtle community. I assure you that they do not represent most residents like us who understand how your investment will contribute to the bright future of Little Turtle. For once, we actually look forward to the orange barrels. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm so happy I said your name correctly. As someone with a sometimes hard to pronounce name, I take great pride in ensuring that I see you and say your name correctly. Our next speaker against this ordinance is Ms. Darlene Slater, who I believe is in the audience. Yes? Please come on down, and just as a reminder again, state your name, organizations you represent, and you have 3 minutes for your testimony. And thank you for being here today.
Hi, I'm Darlene Slater. I'm a longtime resident of Little Turtle, 35 years, and I represent Little Turtle Civic Association membership, just about 300 members at this time. To members of Columbus City Council and to all Columbus residents. I do represent the community of Little Turtle, which overwhelmingly is opposed to the city's proposed roadway project. Since announced in August 2019, the majority of the residents believe that the project in no way benefits the community, and further that the roadway's redesign and destruction of the grand entrance of Little Turtle Way is truly to benefit the developer, trading green space for gray space, trading 4 lanes of traffic flow for gridlock traffic with 2 condensed lanes and a small roundabout. The developer has the means to retain a lobbyist, Mr. Michael Coleman, to represent his interests in the plan. Unfortunately, our civic association is not so fortunate, which is why I'm before you tonight. The proposed roadway plan makes no common sense. Please ask yourselves, why would the city condense the roadway's lanes and further constrict traffic through a small roundabout, of which 75 of all residents will need to traverse to enter or exit the community? These residents, myself included, have no other access in or out of the community, and there's no apparent plan for evacuation should a catastrophic event occur and the roundabout be blocked or backed up. Why would the city put the lives of Little Turtle residents in danger if emergency equipment cannot respond timely? We fear for our residents' well-being. Why remove the beautiful, historic green space and mature trees we now enjoy on the mounds and have for half a century? The mounds serve as a natural rainwater basin and sound barrier to State Route 161. The new roadway will destroy that current balance of nature. There is an old white oak tree that is over 200 years old, but now stands in the way of the project. Incidentally, the original golf club owner had a deed restriction in place to keep these mounds free of any construction except landscaping. Sadly, that deed restriction did expire, but clearly the intent was to keep the green space intact as it is today, and that means something to the community. Why isn't the city adhering to your own pledge to increase the tree canopy in Columbus? Rather, this project is removing 18 mature trees, not to mention all the young ones, and replacing them with saplings. Why are you abusing tax dollars to grossly overpay for a project that is not needed or wanted by the community? Columbus taxpayers should be outraged with the city spending over $6 million on this project when our roadway simply needs repair. We know there are better uses for these public funds. Doesn't the pending legal action between Little Turtle Civic Association and Columbus have any bearing on this ordinance? The temporary restraining order has not expired. Isn't the city violating this order if it proceeds with a vote to support this ordinance? We've repeatedly asked the city for a new traffic study to no avail. Okay, now we are asking for an independent investigation into this roadway project, which certainly smells of corruption. For these reasons, we, the community of Little Turtle, we absolutely oppose this ordinance 1820-2021 and demand City Council to reject it, please.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. Next, in favor of this ordinance, I want to invite Daniel Racco, who I believe is joining us via WebEx.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, the floor is yours. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me speak tonight. I won't take 3 minutes for all brevity, but I am a homeowner in Little Turtle, and I'm concerned about the traffic situation with the speed of the drivers of Little Turtle Way and the road maintenance that's needed. I believe the addition of the roundabout will be a vast improvement for this traffic. With this, it benefits so great and no harm to the residents. It makes good sense to make the change to Little Turtle Way. And I hope that you guys will approve it. I don't know anybody that's against it. I've only lived here for 18 months, but I've lived in the neighborhood for 40 years. And it's a great location. I love it here. And I would hope that this changes could be made for the benefit of everybody and make the place safer. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. Next, we have a speaker that is against the ordinance. Chad Whitaker, I believe, is joining us via WebEx.
That's correct. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Hello, Mr. Whitaker. If you could please state your name, the organization that you represent, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Chad Whitaker. I'm a resident here in Little Turtle Way on Smoke Talk Lane, public safety official and government liaison since 2001. I'm against this governmental resolution at the moment. Right now, I'm hearing you guys say that you're talking about reducing your congestion. However, all traffic studies that have any relevancy have shown no issue with that. So I'm not quite sure how we're handling saying we're doing a reduction in congestion unless we're looking at future build, in which case I keep reminding us back to this whole collusion conversation where we're saying that the golf course is actually doing some of the design process for this, and then we're finding out later on there's been a lot of lack of transparency here. And we don't have that reduction in congestion. But also point out that the folks in High Point are high-density housing. They speak for high-density housing, not folks who are homeowners on the other side of Little Turtle Way, which have been here for quite some time and more established housing. I would also point out that roundabouts only actually reduce speed coming into a roundabout, not on the exit when it's more of a straightaway. I'm still also waiting for a response back from Councilman Favor's office on how we're going to address the fire signals. As we're putting in additional safety signals there at the front to stop traffic, we're not addressing the fact that that will build up traffic in front of Station 29, which now causes a larger safety issue. Proposing forward that we have 3 options in place. 1, build as we are in place, $6 million project. We redo that, we go ahead and build it exactly in place, no harm, no foul. Additionally, we could, if we have to move this along, we realign it the way that the city's discussing. However, what we do at that point in time is shift all utilities and infrastructure over onto the mounds, which means we are now penalizing or putting favor onto our residents, not onto a commercial customer, which is the golf course there. Last but not least, if we can't do any of that, I would strongly encourage that the city of Columbus purchase all of these green space mounds, use them as they see fit for this project, but then make a no-build zone for the purpose of 20 additional years to ensure that those mounds stay as green space that we can all use. We all want beautification. We all want to continue to enjoy these areas. But the additional way that we're going about this without the conversation, without discussing and having a lot of visibility on the project, continues to have just that much anxiety for the community over who's actually guiding the project. As it is right now, many things are being done except for that open green space will only continue to be ceded over for free to the golf course to use for additional builds and more high-density housing. Thank you all so very much, and I stand for questions.
Thank you for your testimony this evening. Last but not least, in favor of this ordinance, Ronald Rittenauer, and I believe that he is also joining us via WebEx.
Good job on the name.
Just as a reminder, please state your name, the organization you represent, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Ronald Rittenauer. I live in the village at Little Turtle Condos east of Little Turtle Way and abutting Long Rifle Road south of us. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I have sent an email to each of you elaborating why I'm in favor of the project, so I won't just repeat that. I am not embroiled in the controversy about how the proposed project came about. I am in favor of the project due to safety concerns. I have lived in the Little Turtle community for 17 years, and I have lived on both sides of Little Turtle Way. During this time, I have seen the volume of traffic increase dramatically on Long Rifle Road as drivers from the east cut through to enter the Highway 161, and I have seen speeds increase on both Long Rifle Road and Little Turtle Way. At times, Little Turtle Way becomes a raceway in both directions. This obviously creates a hazard at the intersections. Changing to a two-way road and creating a roundabout will reduce the hazards. The small vocal group in opposition does not represent all residents of the Little Turtle community. Their lawsuit is missing the point. I don't care where the redesign plan originated. I am in favor of the project because of the safety factor. As I mentioned in my emails, I support one idea in their plan. The Little Turtle community needs an exit to the north. This would greatly reduce traffic congestion and improve safety. Thank you again.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I want to go back for just a second because there were a couple things mentioned in public testimony, so I want to make sure that we are all clear. So joining us on the call is our Chief Counsel, Laura Baker-Morrish. Laura.
Thank you, Council Member.
Yes. So there were.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. There were some questions that I believe that you can answer about the legality that were mentioned in some of the testimony that we heard this evening. Could you clear some of those issues up for everyone listening?
Thank you, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. There was a question as to whether or not the city was currently restrained from moving forward with this legislation based upon the filing of a temporary restraining order. It is the city's position that the temporary restraining order is no longer in effect based upon a specific court order coming from the magistrate that ruled in the city's favor in the Open Meeting Act lawsuit. So we do feel that at this point in the time, the council is able to vote on the matter that's before them this evening.
Are there any points of clarification from my colleagues? Okay, so I would like to turn it back to Assistant Director Bourne Trager, and I believe that City Engineer James Young is also on the call joining us to just address some of the concerns that our residents and neighbors brought up this evening around the project. Could y'all speak specifically to the concerns that were mentioned during the testimony this evening?
Good evening, Chair Barosa de Padilla. Are there any specific items that you'd like me to address? I know the overall, we have engaged numerous times over every one of the questions and answered those with the residents. The others we have pledged to take a look at. We have put in place extra tree plantings, extra landscaping. We beefed up the shared use path in certain sections to allow for emergency vehicles to travel on those. We've also assured the residents that the signals will be timed to ensure less congestion and better traffic flow for emergency vehicles and others. And so there's been a number of questions that residents have brought forward, and we have been open and transparent and answered those throughout the past year at several different meetings, as well as with the project manager himself on countless hours about the project. I would like to say that the project adheres to our complete streets principles and concepts, and with Vision Zero. So we're building those facilities and the roundabouts that are proven to reduce angle crashes that cause serious injuries and fatalities. We've also looked at separating users from the roadway, adding those facilities for biking and running and jogging, those type of things. And overall, it's a quality a project with a lot of merit. The southern roadway is in need. The Little Turtle Way is in need of complete reconstruction to the point where it's becoming a deteriorated situation. And we feel that this new design is going to benefit the community in innumerable ways, but also outside the community as the Northland and surrounding areas, that northeast quadrant of the city is growing at just exponential paces or exponential rate. And so we're seeing congestion, we're seeing all sorts of safety issues, we're seeing a variety of things happening along this area. And we're trying to be proactive to addressing those. And our traffic study did take a look at that. The Morpsey traffic volumes are looking at maximum development around the area as well. So for all those factors and more, we feel very comfortable advocating for the passage of this ordinance.
Thank you. I would like to open the floor to my colleagues for any questions or comments that you may have. Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. Assistant Director Bourne Trager, it is my understanding that as it stands today, the owner of Little Turtle could develop on those mounds without any zoning variances. Is that correct?
That is correct. To the best of my knowledge, it is private property.
So even as it stands today, between two roadways, they could develop with ingress and egress out of that property. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Favor.
Councilmember, I believe you stated that Mr. Young was also available. Mr. Young, if you can, I know when we had our public hearing, which has now been several months ago, we had some meaningful engagement with, I believe, one of our speakers, Mr. Chad Whitaker, who had some really great ideas that we could incorporate into the plan, one of which he acknowledged this evening, which I believe was the fire signal, adding an additional fire signal. Are you able to speak to that? I know that that was one of the concerns that we wanted to raise and advocate on behalf of the community for.
Yes, this is James Young. We are looking into the fire signals down at the fire station to include them as part of a build. So we have to work with ODOT on that, on the plans. So that is something we're engaged in right now, but I don't have an answer on the status of it, of when that could be possible.
And I'm sorry, you said you had to work with who on that one?
I'm sorry, the Ohio Department of Transportation.
Okay, so it's not that, we just don't have an answer yet.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a project that it seems like we've had a lot of conversation over. To me, what seems like routine traffic improvements in an area that is growing. But there have been questions even tonight asking us to delay this project. What are the upsides or what are the downsides to delaying this project at this point? I did read the article this morning, and it talked about the increase in costs. What are those costs and why are they increasing at this point?
Thank you, Council President Hardin. We are seeing commodity prices soar on many of our projects, and we think this is physically proven to move forward now. We also have a roadway that will continue to deteriorate and cause additional safety concerns. And the project enhances the community by managing congestion, reducing speeds, and supporting a safer environment for motorists and those walking, biking, or just taking a jog. But the fact is that if we continue to delay, the price will continue to increase at rates we have not seen in quite some time for our commodities. And we would like to go forward now, lock those down in the winter, start purchasing those materials.
Good.
Councilmember Bankston.
Thank you, Councilmember. I just really have one comment on this, and I think it goes to what I've said a lot of times about our growth. It is our greatest opportunity and also our greatest pain point. And growth is hard. And so we are in a place where we know that this side of the city is going to continue to grow with the announcement from Intel. The northeast side of the city is going to grow exponentially. And so we have to balance that. So I just want to say I am thankful for the robust discussion on both sides of this. And this is the conversation and dialogue that will continue to happen, not just in Little Turtle, but in so many other communities around the city as we continue to grow. And so I want to just thank everyone for the robust conversation, but also this point that we are, which is about progress. And progress truly is the tension between honoring where we've been and where we are going, and recognizing that. And so it has been a roadway and an area maybe that served that community at one point in time, but as we continue to see the growth that is going to happen there, we have to think not about just today, but what will be coming 10, 20 years from now. So I appreciate the robust discussion, and thank you to all the city departments and residents for being involved in this process.
Any other comments or questions? So I just want to thank Councilmember Bankston for the remarks that you just made, because I think that, and as my newest colleague on this council, I think that this is the continued pain point for us, these hard discussions that we have to come together to decide and make changes within our community. And we're all feeling that pain point. Every part of the city is going to continue to feel that as we continue to grow. And my hope is that when we are in these difficult spaces, that we don't just sit here, but that we look to what is on the other side, and we find a way to continue to work together to find compromise. That we are working with our residents, we are working with our neighbors to meet the best possible solution that we all want, which is growth and prosperity, and we want our people to be safe no matter what neighborhood they live in, whether they're walking, whether they're biking, or whether they're in a car. And so with that, and passing and bearing no other questions, I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for this conversation, and I will now move for passage. I'm sorry? Move to amend. Yes? Thank you.
Is there a second on the amendment? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
And I'll move for passage.
Thank you. Move for passage now, yes.
Yes, ma'am. Is there a second? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
It is move for pass.
Thank you. Clerk Bivens, one day I will honor all of your hard work.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the next ordinance, 01392022, to appropriate funds within the Federal Transportation Grants Fund to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Access Civil Construction LLC for the operation Safe Walks School Sidewalks and Street and 17th Street PID 110844 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,173,683.29 from the Federal Transportation Grants Fund for the project, to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period, and to declare an emergency. So this authorizes the Director of Public Safety to enter into a contract, as I stated, for the Operation Safe Walks. This project is very exciting. It will be constructed as a part of Operation Safe Walks, providing students and our community school children a safe route to school. This project will provide approximately 3,500 linear feet of sidewalks to ensure that our babies can have a safe passage to school. So with that, I move for passage, yes.
Second. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Perfect. So next we are at 01442022 to repeal Resolution 0107X2021, declaring the necessity and intent to appropriate real estate in conjunction with the Department of Public Services Roadway Improvements Little Turtle Way project. The Department of Public Service has determined that the real estate is no longer required to complete the project and is now requesting that the resolution be repealed. At this time, we do have one speaker for the ordinance. In favor of the ordinance, Joe Motil, will you please come back on? The floor is yours. Please state your name, your organization. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. President Harden, members of City Council, Joe Motil, 167 West Cook Road. I just want to point out the second speaker in favor of the previous ordinance on this subject is the realtor for the condos for the developer at Little Turtle. And it's too bad that we have people in favor of alleged corruption in this city. Of course, I'm in favor of repealing this resolution, because if it were not for being repealed, This June 28, 2021 approved consent action resolution would have allowed the City of Columbus to proceed with the controversial and non-routine action of illegally taking 10 individuals' private property to construct a roadway project for the sole purpose of benefiting a developer, which is a clear violation of state law that does not allow for eminent domain to be used for private purposes. City Code 111.15 in part states a consent action is a procedure, quote, a procedure which, when incorporated as part of the regular City Council agenda, is designed to facilitate operational, non-controversial, and routine matters on the agenda swiftly and efficiently, end of quote. What on earth could not be more controversial and non-routine than the taking of one's personal property? And how can the City Council and others conclude under oath that this Little Turtle Road project was a non-controversial and routine matter? Public Service Department officials heard Little Turtle residents complain about this project at the first open house held on August 29th, 2019. And in an email from October 23rd, 2020 that was sent to Ms. Favor's office requesting a meeting with Jennifer Gallagher, and a letter that was sent on February 11th, 2021 to all City Council members and Mayor Ginther informing you that the Little Turtle Civic had a petition containing 350 signatures to block or modify the project and other concerns. On February 23rd, 2021, the Dispatch wrote a story titled, "Little Turtle Residents Unhappy Over Columbus Road Plan That Will Change the Neighborhood Entrance." Are you going to claim you were never privy to this article through your, quote, dispatch clips that come from your inter-office memos that are distributed to you by council staff, or that you never read this article? The city stated in today's dispatch that eminent domain is no longer required because these 10 homeowners' property is no longer needed for the project. The fact is the city is backing down due to the likelihood of a lawsuit that they would have lost while attempting to illegally steal private property to the benefit of a private development. And besides, the city has already made a deal with the developer to swap about 1.54 acres of his land to accommodate this project, and in return, he gets the land that is being vacated by eliminating the northbound lane that is owned by the city so he can develop the middle mound. In closing, the years of behind-the-scenes corrupt and unethical dealings that have taken place to press this project forward for the sole purpose of a favored developer and the political influence of his lobbyist warrants an investigation by the State of Ohio Attorney General's Office or a special outside prosecutor. Along with my November 17th, 2021 City of Columbus ethics complaint that was sent to the city's chief ethics officer regarding Jennifer Gallagher's unethical signing off on the Carpenter Marty contract. The city's ethics office is obligated to rule on my complaint as it was filed as a city ethics complaint, and I have not yet received any ruling from the city on my complaint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motel, for your continued advocacy. Any questions from my colleagues, comments? Seeing none, I move to amend as submitted to clerk.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Last one. 01792.
You got
I'm
move
sorry.
passage.
Sorry. Move for passage. I'm so sorry. People, really. Okay.
There's a second. Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Now just one more. I'm gonna get it. 017920222 to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Shelley and Sands Incorporated for the roadway improvement stormwater regional basins Parsons Avenue project to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,185,481.55 from the Streets and Highway Bonds Fund for the project and to declare an emergency. This authorizes the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Shelley and Sands for the Stormwater Regional Basins Parsons Avenue project. This contract includes the installation of a dry detention basin, outlet structure, emergency spillway, access drive, tree planting, and other such work. Questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next committee to come for council is the Finance Committee, chaired by President Pro Tem. President Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President. This evening, I have two ordinances in the Finance Committee relating to the 2022 operating budget. During any year, reviewing the city's budget is one of the most important jobs of this council. But with the health crisis and related economic impacts of COVID-19, Residents are counting on us like never before to deliver a budget that responds to their needs. After receiving the mayor's overall budget proposal in November, $2.1 billion overall, $1.03 billion of which is this general fund budget, we held 8 separate hearings to ensure the review process was transparent and accessible to residents. Their feedback during this process and all year round has guided our review and investment priorities. And this morning, we hosted a press conference to announce what dollars all 7 members are adding or reappropriating within the city's spending plan. Those additions and appropriations total $11,646,125, approximately 9.3 of which to the general fund, including $1 million to the rainy day fund, $2,190,000 within the public health operating fund, $75,000 within the building and zoning services operating fund, and $18,000 within recreation and parks operating fund. The investments we announced this morning represent the 7 members' ongoing commitment to the recovery and resiliency of all Columbus families and all Columbus neighborhoods. I want to thank each of my colleagues for participating in the budget process this year. As background for those watching, Council must amend and adopt the budget in separate meetings. So this evening, we'll be tabling the legislation until next week when we take our final vote. Furthermore, it's important to clarify that when we refer to the operating budget legislation, we're actually discussing 3 separate ordinances: the general fund, other funds, and select other funds ordinances. Only the first 2 of those are subject to amendments currently, which is why in just a moment I'll be reading the titles of those 2 ordinances. Next week, all 3 will appear on the agenda once again and will be adopted together. Before I make my motions on these ordinances, do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions regarding what's before us? Seeing, yep, Councilmember Favor.
I'll just say thank you, Councilmember, for your leadership this cycle. Every year you do an amazing job in making sure we're all organized, that we get the public hearings on the calendar, and then everything goes off without a hitch. So thank you for your leadership this year.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. And I, in turn, want to make sure all gratitude goes to the team. Matt Erickson does an incredible job in our Legislative Research Office of organizing this process. And I want to thank the teams of all the council members who I know work furiously to make sure that our priorities are properly reflected within the amendment process. Particularly, I want to thank Kelsey Ellingson in my office for doing so. So I will move right into it and start with Ordinance 2741-2021 to make appropriations for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2022 for each of the several object classes for which the City of Columbus has to provide from the monies known to be in the treasury of said City of Columbus in the fund known as the General Fund during the said 12 months from the collection of all taxes and other sources of revenue, the amount of $1,034 million, and to declare an emergency. First, I move to remove this from the table.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favorite, Remy, President Harden.
Removed.
I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favorite, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
And I move to table until the February 7th meeting.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favorite, Remy, President Harden.
Table to the 7th.
Next is Ordinance 2742-2021 to make appropriations and transfers for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2022 for other funds for various divisions, to authorize the city auditor to make transfers as may be necessary, and to declare an emergency. I move first to remove this from the table.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favorite, Remy, President Harden.
Removed.
I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favorite, Remy, President Harden.
Amended.
I move to table until the February 7th meeting.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favorite, Remy, President Harden.
Table till the 7th.
Thank you so much to my colleagues. I look forward to 1 week from today considering the full budget for passage.
Thank you, Councilmember Chair, for your leadership. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee. Chair Dorns is not present this evening, so second chair, Nick Bankston, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight in Public Utilities Committee, for second reading, we have Ordinance 3369-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Danbert, Inc. for the Homestead Drive Area Waterline Improvements Project in an amount up to $3,736,444.84 to encumber $2,000 for prevailing wage services provided by the Department of Public Service, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $3,736,444.84 from the Water Systems Reserve Fund to the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $3,736,444.84 within the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account Fund, to authorize an expenditure up to $2,000 within the Water's General Obligation Voted Bond Fund for the Division of Water, and to amend the 2021 capital improvement budget. The goal of this project is to replace and rehabilitate approximately 11,000 linear feet of water lines along Homestead Drive in the Linden neighborhood that have a high break frequency. Replacement of these water lines will improve service, decrease the burden on maintenance operations, and reduce water loss. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, in the Public Utilities Committee for second reading, we have Ordinance 0028-2022 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with BLD Services LLC for the lateral lining Blueprint North Linden 1 R-Train Parkwood project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $287,329.40 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $3,287,329.40 from the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize a transfer within and an expenditure of up to $2,000 for prevailing wage services to the Department of Public Services within Sanitary General Obligations Voted Bond Funds, and to amend the 2021 capital improvements budget. This project is part of our ongoing work with the Blueprint project, and will reduce basement flooding and prevent excess stormwater from entering the city's sanitary sewer system in North Linden when completed. I know that my time working with residents in North Linden, this is something that came up continuously, so we are excited about these improvements. If you're interested in learning more about Project Blueprint, you can visit columbus.gov/blueprint, where you can use an interactive map to find out and see when Blueprint is coming to an area near you. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
President Harden, I have one ordinance in economic development. Is it all right if I speak on that item at this time?
Please.
Tonight in the Economic Development Committee for first reading, we have Ordinance 0169-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into a dual-rate job growth incentive agreement with Hyperion Companies, Inc. for a term of up to 6 consecutive years in consideration of the company's proposed capital investment of $296,900,000, the relocation of 10 out-of-state jobs with an estimated payroll of approximately $1.3 million, and creation of 687 net new full-time permanent positions with an estimated payroll of approximately $58,293,012. Members of council, I am really excited about this project, coupled with the announcement that of Intel that was just made. It really, I think, underscores that something special is happening here in our region. Hyperion Companies, Inc. is a green hydrogen technology company specializing in the design, development, and manufacture of advanced hydrogen power systems. Hyperion's mission is to provide carbon-free, sustainable energy to the world within its breakthrough, low-cost hydrogen technology. target applications span across the global energy industry with a focus on zero-emission transportation, utility, and industrial sectors. This company is relocating from Orange, California, to the far west side of Columbus, near the Hilltop and Westland neighborhoods at 5300 Crosswind Drive. So for all of our historians out there, this is once housed the printing operations for the Columbus Dispatch. And it's exciting that it's coming to this side of town. As you know, the west side was once a really manufacturing blue-collar epicenter for our city. So to see manufacturing come back is really exciting. This deal with Hyperion is the largest deal, a manufacturing deal inside of the Columbus city limits in over a decade. And we are really excited about that because the important point to underscore here is that out of the 687 jobs that are created, these are not going to be all high-tech jobs. There are going to be over 233 blue-collar manufacturing jobs that are created, another 99 jobs in facilities and warehouse work. So, and they're paying a living wage of over $60,000 for these manufacturing jobs. So really excited about this opportunity for our community. Additionally, as a fun fact, Hyperion was actually started in Columbus 10 years ago. So it is more of a homecoming for the city. And also we want to stick it to Silicon Valley and let people know Columbus is the new Silicon Valley. I would now like to introduce Angelo Kafataris, who is the Chief Executive Officer and founding member of Hyperion Companies, to speak more about his company and this historic move. Mr. Angelo, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Chair Nick Bengtson. So just some brief background about Hyperion and what we're looking to do and our move from California. We are really excited about technology. We're, of course, focused in the hydrogen area. That's an energy storage medium. And like that was mentioned, we did actually start in Columbus. In fact, I'm an Ohio native, but we had to move to California, to Orange, California, because of the technology focus that was there with green EVs. Now our company is focused on energy storage, and that relates to cars, it relates to industrial gases, and of course, electric utilities. Hydrogen can be seen as a mass energy storage device medium, and we have expertise there. We work with a lot of great partners to bring that to fruition. And we're now at a stage at our company where we're entering into the manufacturing stage, and that is where we looked at many different states across the country, including, of course, our native Columbus and, of course, the state of Ohio. And we did find some really great opportunities within the state, and that is what is before you guys here today. And part of that is actually this hilltop area, which has been sort of historically underserved recently with manufacturing. And we're excited to be able to bring some of those jobs back to that area and also bring some technological expertise as well back to the area. And as was mentioned before, it will be about over 680 new jobs, net jobs, about $58 million a year is coming off the annual payroll. And about an average over 60 and closer to about 80,000 average salaries across the board. So some really exciting stuff happening in the field of hydrogen and some really exciting stuff happening, I think, in Columbus. And we're just proud to be part of the fabric that makes Columbus so unique. And what is unique about it, of course, is we've got this great infrastructure that allows for not just ease of manufacturing with local supplier networks, but also a very diverse workforce that ranges across the board from very high-tech research and development to also manufacturing expertise. And so this is a perfect combination for us because in this particular location, we will be doing both. It will be a mixed use of manufacturing for our core product, which is a fuel cell engine, and then also some really advanced R&D for fuel cell catalysts and fuel cell membranes, which is very much material sciences. So that's a brief summary about Hyperion and a brief summary about what we're doing. And yes, again, we are very excited to hopefully be joining this community and help to better the economic growth of that area. So thank you for the time, and if there's any further questions, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, Angelo, and welcome back home. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move to waive second reading.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Waived.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Criminal Justice and Judiciary, chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Criminal Justice and Judiciary, we have Ordinance 0155-2022 to authorize the appropriation of $4,377,998 from the 2022 unappropriated balance of the Franklin County Municipal Court Special Funds to the Franklin County Municipal Court for all anticipated expenses and to declare an emergency. The Franklin County Municipal Court is the busiest court in the state of Ohio. It continually strives to improve services to every resident who appears before the court and strives to be a wise and efficient steward of taxpayer resources. For this reason, the court charges a variety of court fees to provide additional support to the administration of its departments and programs. This ordinance authorizes the appropriation of $4,377,998 from the 2022 various court special funds. These funds support programs such as the Court's Specialized Docket Fund, which consists of 5 programs addressing drug and alcohol addiction, heroin addiction, mental health issues, and the special needs of human trafficking victims and veterans. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. May I move on to Health and Human Services?
Please.
Tonight in Health and Human Services, we have Ordinance 0106-2022 to authorize and direct the Board of Health to accept a grant from the Ohio Department of Health for the COVID-19 Vaccine Grant Program in the amount of $1,326,806 to maintain and expand COVID-19 vaccine programs, with special emphasis on high-risk and underserved populations, including racial and ethnic minority populations and rural communities, and ensure greater equity and access to COVID-19 vaccines by those disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 disease. To authorize the appropriation of $1,326,806 to the Health Department in the Health Department Grants Fund and to declare an emergency. The ordinance will authorize the Board of Health to accept a $1.3 million grant from the Ohio Department of Health for the COVID-19 Vaccine Grant Program. Funding will ensure high-risk and underserved populations, including rural and ethnic populations, have greater equity and access to COVID-19 vaccines. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown favor, Remy. President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 0280-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into grant agreements with Make a Day Foundation, My Project USA, Ohio Hispanic Coalition, St. Vincent Family Services, in support of human services programs to authorize an expenditure within the Recovery Fund and to declare an emergency. This ordinance authorizes the Director of the Department of Development to enter into grant agreements with the organizations I just acknowledged. The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in a disproportionate negative economic impact and created barriers to access basic needs like food, supplies, and shelter in communities of color and low-income communities across the nation. Funding of these organizations will help ensure that no family gets left behind. Director Stevens, is there anything additional you'd like to add at this time?
No, thank you, Chair Favor.
Thank you. Do any of my colleagues want to make any comments? I know President Pro Tem Brown has been an incredible advocate for My Project USA, but we also have Make a Day Foundation, Hispanic Coalition, St. Vincent Family Services. These are all incredible organizations that do the hard work for our community. President Pro Tem?
Just thank you, Councilmember Favor, for advancing this. And I've been a champion of My Project USA. Their incredible work with residents in the Wedgwood community and on the West Side. But truly, each of these organizations does really important work for our community. And I do want to lift up St. Vincent Family Center. I think that often we don't talk enough about the work that they do, the kind of work that they do. They play a key role in the foster care system, and they're providing behavioral health services to childcare providers in schools and so much unseen work. So thank you for putting this forth. As families continue to grapple with the impacts of the pandemic, it couldn't be more important.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. With that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 0281-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into grant agreements with Clintonville, Beachwood Community Resource Center, and Huckleberry House in support of human services programs, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. The funding will allow the Clintonville Beachwood Community Resource Center to increase senior supportive services and will also allow Huckleberry House's Teen Crisis Shelter and the newly opened Counseling Center. Director Stevens, do you have anything additional you'd like to add on this ordinance?
Chair Favor, I do not.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any comments they'd like to add? Once again, I'd just like to offer our deepest appreciation to the organizations that continue to stand in the gap on behalf of our residents and the city as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. With that, I'd move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 0283-2022 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into grant agreements with MCS Touch and Martin Day Porres Center in support of reimagining safety initiatives, to authorize an appropriation within the Reimagine Safety Subfund, to authorize a transfer, appropriation, and expenditure within the general fund, and to declare an emergency. Funding awarded to Metropolitan Community Services will be used to provide employment and wraparound support services, including acquiring identification, food, and housing to support individuals impacted by the criminal justice system. Additionally, the funding awarded to Martin Day Porres Center will aid in youth mental health services and coaching to educate youth on pathways to legal immigrant status, including DACA. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Yes, Councilmember Barosa de Padilla.
I was just going to highlight, I could have highlighted something with each of the organizations that you said, because these are all organizations that are doing incredible work in our community. But I think I just want to elevate the work of the Martin de Porres Center, just because the work that they do, especially in our immigrant, migrant, and refugee communities, is invaluable. The opportunities that they are doing, that they are giving to our young people to find a path towards citizenship, which is something that we are all working for, to ensure that our young people, this is their home, and to ensuring that they feel that way and this is a place where they belong. I just want to elevate that work, and I'm very excited that this is an organization that we will be standing up and funding in the future.
Thank you so much, Council Member. With that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 287-2022 to authorize the Board of Health to enter into contract with Deborah Miles Consulting LLC for project management, marketing, promotions, and communications work in support of the Commission on Black Girls, to authorize appropriations and expenditures of $250,000 within a Neighborhood Initiatives Subfund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Codes, and to declare an emergency. This funding will continue to support the important work of the Commission on Black Girls. I'd like to now turn it over to Assistant Health Commissioner Mike Fielding to provide some additional comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor, President Harden, President Pro Tem Brown, and other members of Council. While the Commission on Black Girls was established in 2018, the majority of the work has been performed is related to research and development of, quote unquote, a report on the quality of life of Black girls in Columbus, Ohio. At the time of that report was released in July 2020, the Commission redirected its efforts to the Black Girls SOAR program, which was intended to empower and uplift Black girls as they were coping with the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. As Council is aware, the Commission on Black Girls has now transitioned to Columbus Public Health. It now resides in the Center for Public Health Innovation, joining their efforts to address racism as a public health issue. At CPH, we are working to stand up the Commission's operations to begin sharing the quote-unquote quality of life of Black girls report with the community, engaging stakeholders, and most importantly, convening an advisory board to guide the implementation of the recommendation in the report. Deborah Miles Consulting LLC services are needed in several key areas to establish the commission's operations at its new home. The consultant provides a broad range of professional, communications, and marketing and event planning services. Since 2019, Deborah Miles Consulting LLC has performed extensive work on behalf of the Commission on Black Girls, providing project management, marketing, event planning services. Additionally, the agency is uniquely positioned to provide consulting service to the Commission at this time because of its understanding and previous work performed in the development of the Commission's report. There are a number of deliverables that she will perform, but I'll hold off in case there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Just wanted to recognize also, I'd be remiss not to recognize the leadership of Councilmember Priscilla Tyson and getting us to this point and the work that has been done. We look forward to supporting it in its new home at the Health Department, and just look forward to the work that comes out of that. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown favor, Ramey, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Ordinance 345-2022 to authorize the Columbus City Clerk to enter into a grant agreement with the Community Development for All People for its warming center, to authorize an appropriation and expenditure within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, and to declare an emergency. The COVID-19 pandemic has heightened national crisis that existed long before the coronavirus, with the most evident impact on homelessness and affordable housing. Everybody deserves to be in a safe and warm home. Homelessness and housing are increasingly critical issues to our community, especially in the cold winter months. Community Development for All People holds overnight warming centers at 946 Parsons Avenue due to the extreme cold affecting Columbus during the winter months. They provide a place to warm up and stay overnight, as well as other resources. These funds will support 5 weeks of the warming center and support utilities, laundry, bus passes, and other operational costs. I know a few of my colleagues had an opportunity over the past week to check out the warming center. Would either of you, any of you, like to make any additional comments as we move to pass this very timely piece of legislation?
I just have to express the importance of folks being able to have a place to go in the cold. I mean, if you experience cold walking to your car, walking your dog, imagine that being all night long. And we have folks who were living in their vehicles, their heat went out. We had folks who had experienced health issues due to the cold, due to the temperature dropping. And these folks are already experiencing enough hardships. Like, we need to ensure that warming centers like this are important all over the city, because I think about if you are across town, how are you getting access to Parsons? So I implore folks that we do have the warming center in on Parsons, that if you're seeing folks, especially as you're seeing people out in the street and they're asking, perhaps for whether they're asking for money or they're asking for other support, that you let them know that this is an opportunity, this is a place that they can go and that they can get warm and that they can feel safe and get something in their belly for the evening. So I'll turn it over to Councilmember Brown, who we had the opportunity to talk to folks who were at the warming center the evening that we were there. So
yeah, we sat down with a couple of folks on Saturday, and I want to echo what Councilmember Barosa de Padilla said about, if you encounter an unhoused individual on the street or in your day, please let them know about the warming center that's at Parsons and Whittier. 911 or 946 are the two locations that they kind of go between. So Parsons and Whittier. The people we spoke with told us stories of, one man said it was the first, he had one night until Saturday night where he'd been able to sleep indoors. Only one other night in this winter. He was cocooned in blankets, to try to stay warm. And another individual we met had unfortunately lost his toes due to the cold, and explained how the cold is just something you can't stop feeling. even when you feel that warmth. A volunteer told us about a mother and her baby who needed to rely on the warming center recently. And we know as Councilmember Favor champions that affordable housing is a right for all of us, and that houselessness is a chronic issue in just about every major U.S. city. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that too often when we hear about homelessness, it's in terms of the nuisance that people perceive, right? What some kind of hostile architecture or laws that can be created to push the problem further from view. But let's remember that these residents aren't homeless. Columbus is their home, and they need our compassion and our help literally to stay alive right now. I am excited to be able to see this funding, support this funding going through so quickly to help expand community development for all people's warming centers. I appreciate Councilmember Favor's sponsorship of it. And there's so much more work to be done to help our unhoused residents stay warm and access the accommodations needed for basic dignity. Thank you again, Chair Favor, for your leadership of the Health and Human Services Committee.
Thank you so much to both council members who had the opportunity to tour and spend some time with our residents who are currently experiencing some housing issues. I look forward to digging in deep as the new chair of this committee, because the way in which we address homelessness and housing in this country, not just in this city, is a treatment of the symptom and not truly the actual cause of the problem. And so what we continue to do is to Band-Aid an issue. Obviously, we have to stop the bleeding any way we can, and that's what this legislation is doing. But I truly want to get into the heart of the matter, and so I appreciate everyone joining hands as quickly as possible to make sure that we are standing up organizations that do this work 365 days of the year. So thank you to the Community Development for All People and all of our organizations that are hosting warming centers across our city, especially as we are heading into this week where they are predicting a large storm. With that being said, I just want to acknowledge the address again, 946 Parsons, as well as the number to the general shelter system, 614-274-7000. Please write that down, share it. We're tweeting it round the clock. We just want to make sure that residents know that they can get the help if they need it. Yes, Council President.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make the point that in preparing for the inclement weather that's coming into Columbus, Council will be pushing out just general information for how the community can take care of themselves and keep one another safe. In prepping that work, talking to the shelter system, they made a point to us today that no one will be turned away in the event of inclement weather like we're expecting. So regardless of which shelter you go to, regardless of its status in terms of how many folks are inside, no one will be turned away over the next couple of days. So we really hearing stories about folks losing limbs. We gotta hopefully it gets people's attention what we're dealing with. We're not just talking to your point about people begging for money. We're talking about humans who are losing life sometimes, and certainly in Columbus last week, limbs. Because of the temperature, we have to do better. And just want to encourage folks to spread the word. There is space. There will be space this week for sure for folks who need it.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Council President. With that, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, Favor, Remy, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Council member, the next committee to come before council is the Administration Committee chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have one item in the Administration Committee I would like to introduce from the floor. this evening. So that ordinance is 140, 2022, to authorize the Human Resources Director to enter into contract with Ohio Health Corporation to provide employee fitness center management services from February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2023, to authorize the expenditure of up to $95,000 from the Employee Benefits Fund or so much thereof as may be necessary to pay the costs of said contract and to declare an emergency. The Human Resources Department requests to enter into contract with the Ohio Health to operate the Employee Fitness Center and to provide funding from February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2023. In 2021, the Human Resources Employee Benefits Office bid out for management services for the fitness center via RFP 020173. The RFP team reviewed 5 management service providers and interviewed 3 finalists. After careful consideration and evaluation, Ohio Health Corporation was selected as being the lowest and best bid for the services needed for the city. The total contract term is for 3 years with the option of 2 one-year renewals after 3 years. The maximum program fees for employee fitness center management services from February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2023 will not exceed $95,000. Emergency action is requested to ensure employee fitness center management services for city employees are able to commence as soon as contractually possible, thereby maintaining continuity of service, all for the immediate preservation of the public health, peace, property safety, and welfare. Director Brandon, are you available to talk about any additional details for this important employee benefit for our employees?
Good evening. I thank you for the opportunity to speak on it. Again, good evening, President Hardin, Chairman Remy, and members of council. You did cover most of the information. Like you said, we do want to ensure continuity of services. And as you mentioned, Ohio Health won the bid, and they will manage the daily operations of the center, which include full staffing, program development and implementation, equipment checks and cleaning, and new member orientation. Programming will also include daily group fitness classes, both in-person and virtual, as well as 4 educational wellness webinars that will cover health topics, including behavioral health, lifestyle changes, fitness and nutrition. Specialized health coaching, personal training, and nutrition consultation is also available at no cost to employees. So we are very excited to enter into this relationship with Ohio Health, and I do thank you for your favorable consideration of this legislation and for adding it this evening.
Thank you very much, Director Brandon. Appreciate that. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Passed.
Council President, that's all I have in the committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Seeing no further business come before council, is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Brown, favor, Remy, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. Noted speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker to come before council.